Hey, folks. Welcome to the Beans and Dice podcast. I'm Carlos.
I'm Rob.
And today's episode, we get to make up for all the mess-ups we did last week. We promised you a unboxing and conversation about Red Rising.
Right.
But FedEx did not come through. The package was not delivered to our caller in Louisiana, Mitchell. But this week, we can confirm that the package has arrived.
Yep.
Has been unboxed, played, and thought about. And we have on the other line, and actually via Zoom, our guest host for today, Mitchell. Mitchell, introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, I'm Mitchell. I'm from Louisiana, and I have Red Rising. So.
He's got ding more points than we do.
And we're at I meant to ask you before. Where at exactly in Louisiana are you, Mitchell?
So I live in New Iberia. You definitely haven't heard of it. It's a very small town.
I've heard of it.
All the way. Oh really?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I my professional job is in claims, and I handle claims in the state of Louisiana. So I've heard just about everywhere in Louisiana. But
okay, yeah. I do not often meet someone that's not from Louisiana that has heard of it.
Oh, cool.
But we're all the way down by the water.
Yep.
Yep. Right in the middle.
Awesome.
Is that your hometown where you're from? Are you a transplant?
Yeah, no, I was born and raised here. I moved about 45 minutes north for college in Lafayette, and then came right back.
Cool.
That's nice. That an original Louisiana.
Louisiana.
How would you say? Never mind.
Louisianian.
There you go.
Got it. That's where I was going. Yeah. Awesome.
Well, you've got Red Rising there. It arrived, so we're going to give you a chance to talk about the components, what came on in from what I understand, the collector's edition, right?
Right, collector's edition.
Read off that number. Which number did you get?
11,883 out of 15,000.
Sweet. Yeah.
So talk to us about Red Rising. We'll give you a quick chance to run through what's there, and then talk to us about how you feel, and then we'll open up the phone lines for you folks at home.
Sure. Yeah. So I'll start off just really briefly with, if you're not a fan of the series, just giving a very brief introduction. So Red Rising by Pierce Brown. It was initially a trilogy. There's a second trilogy that they still have one book left, and there's a couple of graphic novel prequels. But it's essentially a futuristic dystopia where humans are like biologically engineered to be predisposed to be good at certain jobs. And there's 14 castes. The golds are at the top. They're the rulers. At the bottom are the reds, who are like the slaves, the laborers, the miners. And I don't think it's a spoiler to say it's about the reds rising up, and
Okay.
changing the status quo.
That's a title. Yeah.
I mean, you can see by our background, we went all red.
Ooh,
I mean, it's
thematic.
Like, it's all red in
Very
here
nice.
today.
I like it. So the game is based on the initial trilogy, but there are no spoilers. You can enjoy it if you didn't play the game, but if you didn't read the book. But if you're like me and read the books, I just think it'll be nice Easter eggs, and you get to see your favorite characters come to life. So I did already open it and play it. Spoiler alert. So maybe not an official unboxing, but I will go over the components before we get to talking about gameplay. So the box, as you can see, is very colorful, fitting of the theme. This color, I've never seen it in a box before. Like, this is slightly raised. It's like it was put on after. It's kind of cool.
Cool.
But you can see there's 14 people here for the different casts. This gold, and then in the shadow right here, he's got a Reaper hook. That's the main character.
Yeah.
And this is the collector's edition. The gameplay is 100% the same. It's just some upgraded components. These are available from Stegmaier's online store. I think, as far as I know, it's just going to be that initial run. It is slightly more expensive, but in my opinion, it's worth it. And we'll talk about why in a second. But anyway, it's Stegmaier, Wingspan, Scythe, all those great people. They have great cheap components.
Yep.
Not cheap, I'm sorry. Affordable components.
Affordable, there you go, yeah.
with great gameplay
Sure.
As well. There is a one-player version, Automa, like all the Stegmaier games.
Okay, cool.
As it says right here, 45 to 60-minute playthrough. Honestly, that's on the high side, in my opinion. Both of my games are probably about 30 minutes, which is
Nice.
But it's still got a lot of depth and strategy and stuff to it. So it's not one of those that drags, 1 to 6 players, all that. I wanted to show the back really quickly, just because it has some of the characters. I don't know how well you can see.
Yeah, you tell me what they are.
Well, actually, let me see if this works, because I have my other phone camera.
Oh, look, he's high tech over there, Rob.
Oh, multi-cameras.
Next thing you know, he's going to start his own show.
No.
But so this just shows you some of the different colors. These are some of the main characters in the book. So people who read the book, that's the main character.
Read them off for me.
What's that?
Read them off for me.
Yeah, so that's Darrow. He's the main character. He's a red.
Yep.
Ragnar is an obsidian, who's kind of like a super soldier. Orion is blue. Those are the pilots. Severo is another gold. The golds are
Severo's my man. That's one of my favorite characters in the first book.
He's my favorite as well. He's kind of like the sidekick. Mickey's
Crazy,
the purple,
though.
their artist. Eevee is pink. They're in the card game. They're called companions, but it's a little bit more adult in the book. What the pinks are. You catch my drift?
Okay.
And then
Okay. Adult. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be that cast of people.
Sure,
that there's services.
They service all walks of life. Yeah, sure. Okay.
Carry on.
Yeah, and then EO, which is Darrow's wife in the book. So, and these are all on the cards. There are 112 cards in the game. So pretty much every character you can think of is in the game, which is pretty cool.
Okay.
But yeah, nice, pretty box.
I think that's part of what I'm excited about is trying to see how the artist envisioned those characters that I read.
Visualize it a little bit.
Right, so then maybe the next book I can have a better image in my head of what they look like.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of my favorite parts. Whenever I play with my wife, who did read the books, she said, "Man, I don't really want to play right now. I just want to go and look at all the cards." She was kind of getting distracted, which was nice.
Cool.
Here's the rule book. It's got that nice, like, textured parchment that Stegmaier started doing, I think, ever since Wingspan.
Yep.
And it's not really that long. It's 8 pages.
Stegmaier does that, man. They condense their rules down.
Yeah.
The thing is, I taught this game to my wife in 5 minutes.
Cool.
Which makes it super accessible to the table. And, there's a lot of stuff in here, but a lot of it's examples and errata and things like that, and, flavor text. The rules really could have probably been on 1 page. It's just making sure you understand everything. And even on here, I like the art. This is the symbol for the society. It's the hierarchy of all the different colors. The gold's up here and the red's in the bottom. And that's pretty cool. This is the Automa rules, which I love. Automa for automaton, solo play. But they made this like this was a character in Red Rising. So in the Red Rising series, the people's names are like there's Pax Telemanus, but that AU, I think it's a Latin thing. Oh, it goes between their first and last name. So this is an automaton
right. Like
of House Toma.
Right.
So I thought that was a nice play.
Oh, cool. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Little details in there.
Yeah. I haven't played the solo version, but it seems pretty, close to regular multiplayer gameplay. So as we move on, I took this out of the box just for easier access. So this organizing tray is only in the collector's edition. It is nice. I don't need any bags or anything like that. It's really great. So we'll start with the game board here. It's a very simple 1-fold board here. Pretty small, which works. You don't need a whole lot for the game board itself. I do have a little complaint that we very quickly were going off the board with these cards that we were putting here.
Yep.
But a minor complaint. So we have a little bit of artwork here. This is in the solar system. So you have Jupiter and Jupiter's moons, the asteroid belt, and Mars, Earth, and I believe this is Venus right here. Yeah, I guess we're going in order from science class: Mercury, Venus, Earth. So there's that.
Teacher.
But
Yeah.
I teach social studies though, not science.
Oh, okay. Close enough.
What I love most about this board though is the back. Whereas most board game manufacturers, they just make it black, right? Not Stegmaier. Look at this beautiful art. My
That's
gosh,
awesome.
I love it so much.
Look at the fleets, man.
Yeah, up here. And then this, I'm pretty sure this is Octavia, who is like the sovereign. She's like the emperor. This has got to be Severa right here. He's got the wolf cloak on.
Oh yeah, that's him all the way,
that.
Man.
Yeah, this is
Dashing
the
and
Ash
slashing.
Lord. Yeah, this is beautiful. Like I could just sit here and enjoy this without the game itself.
I mean, even if it's just a fan of the novel, the artwork alone in this is totally worth it.
Wall.
Nice touch, yeah.
It's great, yeah. So that's the game board. Now I'll get back to that whenever we talk about the gameplay and the rules itself. But continuing right along here, let's see. We have our scoring pad, which is nice and convenient. And so as we move along here, this whole black plastic piece is only in collector's edition. Like I said,
Oh,
really nice.
Yeah, because that's the game trays, the TRAs,
the game trays?
YZ.
Yeah. Okay.
Kind of like they did with between two cities, between two castles.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love Stegmaier storage solutions. They're great. I'm not getting paid to laud on Stegmaier, by the way. But
okay.
Neither are we, but we still do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, second thing that's only in the collector's edition are these card holders, which there's 6 of them. There's 6 players, 1 for each color. A complaint so far in both games I've played, they have fallen over. Not the end of the world, because the cards are specific. It doesn't give away your hand just by a quick glimpse. And also, they hold 5 cards, and beyond that, you have to stack your cards, and then you can't see them, and I don't like that. So I put 5 cards here, 5 cards in front of me, but then I forget about the cards in front of me. So not a huge complaint, because I mean this is basically just tossed in as an extra. This is not in the base game, so I'm not complaining about it. But
sure.
Accessibility though, right? Because not every one of us is going to need it. But if we have small kids, right, who struggle with holding cards, or someone who just struggles with holding cards, right? My son's got a bum shoulder right now. He would use 2 of those to manage his hand. Just the fact that they're in
I
there
didn't even think about that.
says accessibility all
I've never played with
day.
6 players. I could have used 2, and I didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He limited himself.
Yeah. So this is the Sovereign token. It is metal. It is nice and heavy, gold painted. So the Sovereign in the Red Rising universe is like the Emperor. And I don't know if you can see the detail on that, but that same society thing with all the different classes on it is on there. There's a lot of really nice detail. This could be like a paperweight right here. But so this, if you hold this at the end of the game, if you're the Emperor at the end of the game, you have 10 points. And also it's a tiebreaker. Anytime you get it, it triggers your house ability. This right here, this is the first player token because everybody has an equal number of turns. Once the end game is triggered, you make sure everybody's had an equal number. So this is metallic and painted gold as well. It's just, I believe, a yellow painted piece of wood in the retail version. So nice touch.
Yeah.
A custom die. It's a big one too. It's a D6.
Oh yeah.
That's thick.
Yeah.
And is that laser etched, not just painted, right?
Correct. Yeah. It's recessed here.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Cool.
And I'll go over what all that means in a bit. And then my favorite part, I believe, of the collector's edition are these player cubes. They're metallic, and it just feels so good to use these things.
Metal cubes.
So you have
You got Rob's attention.
Yeah, cubes are already good, but metal cubes. Ooh.
yes. So you have 10 of these influence markers, and then you have your little fleet token here. That's a little spaceship.
It's like a little rocket.
Yeah. So one complaint I have heard online, and I have to say that I agree. I think they chose these colors to differentiate between the casts on the cards, but some of them are very, very similar.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
And so if I were to spill these, it would be very hard for me to tell which is which.
Oh, geez, yeah.
Yeah.
Again, not the end of the world.
But I think it's because of the metal. So the type of dye that you could use to color metal probably doesn't allow for that saturation in order to differentiate. But it's a good effort. Good effort.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Whoa! I was trying to move a light and everything fell. One second.
That's all right.
That's hilarious. Welcome to the Beans and Ice podcast. This is how we game.
Yeah,
Things happen.
Yeah, I'm just gonna switch back to the regular old camera because
Here we go.
So this right here is the
Helium.
howler symbol.
Helium. What is it?
Helium-3 is the resource.
Yep.
This is in the shape of the howlers from the book, which is kind of Sevro's little.
Yeah, I've heard people say it wrong in different reviews. They call it a fox. I'm like, no, those are not foxes.
No,
they were
no,
wolves,
it's a wolf.
man. They were wolves.
Yeah,
Okay.
They howl to strike.
Like, you've
fear
never read
in
this
the
book.
hearts.
Nope.
Yeah. So yeah, these are the Helium-3 tokens. That's like a fuel and a way to terraform the planets.
And that's what the red faction is built for. They're the lowest caste. They're the slaves. They work in the mining of the tunnels of Mars, sucking up that helium out of the planet so they can terraform.
Right. And so have you guys played Zaya before?
Oh, yes, I have.
This one has.
Yes.
Yeah. So you know the little orange damage cubes?
Yep.
This is the same thing, but it's red.
Okay.
Or Everdell, the resin, but it's red.
Okay.
And they're nice. I like that it has a storage tray. Again, another manufacturer would have just thrown these in a bag.
Those translucent, it looks like?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a little bit.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So then we have our 6 asymmetric house cards, which are dealt out randomly. Just your,
Yeah, and these are tablets. These are like card stock, not
Correct.
cards.
Yeah, they're thicker.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
And so they're asymmetric. My wife doesn't like it that she doesn't get to pick her color, but I like it, so you don't just stick to one. I get that, if you're used to one color and you're going to move the wrong color. But yeah, I like, kind of like Scythe. If you get to pick your faction, you're always going to go to the one that you think is OP. It kind of makes you, explore the game a little bit more. And then the last thing are these cards.
I didn't know they had asymmetric powers.
I didn't know either.
That's cool.
That's new to me.
I'm excited.
Yep.
Yeah. It's not they're not all like
Just anything though.
Scythe,
just a little bit of a difference helps each game, the replayability of the system.
Sure.
Exactly. And then, like I said, one of the
Those look like they're tarot size. Am I wrong? Are those tarot size?
No. This is a regular size. Maybe it's just because of the angle.
Oh, you have small hands.
Yeah, I guess.
Maybe.
So, yet again, this iconography, the society all over. And then, so on all the golds in the collector's edition, we have this gold foil, which is really.
Oh, they foiled them?
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, right there.
Cool.
So it won't be like that in the retail edition. But
Right.
Same gameplay. But yeah, I mean, there are so many cards. Again, I heard some complaints online that there's so many cards you never get through them all in a game, but that's a pro for me.
Oh, yeah.
How is
me
that
too.
a problem?
So replayable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And it's really cool as a fan of the book series to see like oh, I recognize her, and that's what she looks like. Maybe I thought she was going to be different. But what's really cool, and it's as we get into the gameplay in a minute, is to see who they pair up with for better points. And then you have just the Ultima cards, which I'm not going to get into because I haven't played it. But that's components. Y'all have any questions on that before I talk about gameplay?
You see anything in there?
No, and so just to point out briefly again for those watching, the differences between the upgraded components and the standard components. What part of what you have is comes in the standard, and what's upgraded?
Okay, yeah. So the organizer here is just in the what is it called? Collector's edition.
Okay, yep.
This token is wood instead of metal.
Okay.
As are all of the player pieces.
Okay. And the fleet tokens.
And the fleet tokens.
The Academy tokens, the Fleet Academy.
And then the gold
foiling on the cards. Okay. The translucent helium cards are same?
These are the same.
Or not cards, I mean cubes, I meant. Yeah, or
correct.
Bits.
So yeah, this is on the Stegmaier store listed at $60, and I believe the retail is going to MSRP at $40. But if you're a Stegmaier champion, which is a $15 annual subscription, you get 25% off, which is $15.
Oh,
so it's basically $45.
Wow!
And plus you get an advanced shipment on all their games, which is why I got this a little early. And I was already a champion because of Pendulum.
Sure.
So I mean, it was basically free to get the lower price, and it's $5 more, and I think that's worth it.
Yeah, cool.
All right. Well, what we're going to do now is continue the conversation with how your gameplays went, what your thoughts are. But at this point, I'm going to go ahead and open up the phone lines to the folks out there so they can ask you and us questions about Red Rising, or if they want to chime in and talk about Red Rising or anything else, because sometimes they take our show over, and that's fine. That's what we want. But we're going to open up the phone lines, 813-618-7099.
And we'll stop you if we get a call, but otherwise, if you want to go ahead and give us a little bit on the gameplay, how it plays, the mechanics, and then what you thought about your first couple plays, I guess.
Yep, phone lines are open, 813-618-7099, folks. Call in, talk to us about your thoughts on Red Rising, and we will bring Mitchell back onto the camera there. So now you can talk to us about the gameplay.
Yeah, I think it took a little bit more than my allotted time.
Oh, you're good.
No. My apologies.
That's all right.
So anyway, the game board, and I'm going to hold it up here because my other camera fell. But without getting into all the very, very specifics, in under a minute, you can understand the rules of this game. So these are the 4 different locations. This is Jupiter, Mars, Luna, which is our moon. That's like the capital of the Red Rising universe. And then the Institute, which is a school where the golds go to kind of try to, earn their battle scars kind of thing. So at the beginning of the game, there will be cards on each of these, and you will start with 5 cards. You'll randomly get a house that has a power, and that's what your color is. So on your turn, very simply, the main thing that you do is you're going to play a card to one of these locations. And the vast majority of the cards have what's called a deploy ability. So that's that little symbol right here with the arrow.
Okay, yeah.
So for Asia, it's choose an opponent. They banish one of their cards, then banish Asia. So you play that, and you do that ability. That's the first step. The second step is you pick up the top card of any stack, but it can't be this one. So you have to pick it from somewhere else. And once you do that...
Hey, Mitchell, give me a second here. I think we got a call in. Let me call this number back and see what it is. Let's see. It's great radio.
Yeah, and live. We're making a call.
Yeah, I think we are.
That's a first.
Hello.
Hey, Jamey. This is Carlos and Rob of the Beats and Dice podcast.
How are you?
I know. Yeah, I've been trying to call through, but you guys have been busy tonight.
Yeah, we had Mitchell, and actually we've got Mitchell from Louisiana. He's a viewer, a recurring caller. He's the one that received his copy of Red Rising this week and just unboxed it for us on air.
Right.
But we were able to connect Mitchell on this line and you. So, Mitchell, I don't know if you can hear Jamey.
I can. How's it going, man? It's an honor to speak with you, Jamey.
Hey, Mitchell. Yeah, nice to meet you, too. Thanks so much for sharing your copy. Yeah, I've been watching you do the unboxing tonight. Thank you for doing that.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, I've only
Carlos,
got...
I checked on your...
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mitchell. Yeah. No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I've only got 2 plays in so far because I got it 2 days ago, but so far we're loving it. So great job.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
I'm excited.
I'm glad you're having fun with it. And Carlos, I was going to say right before I called the first time, I checked to see how the order is that I submitted for Eudor Fulfillment Center, and it looks like they haven't shipped it yet.
Okay.
But they're working on it. They're getting through their orders, and it should ship out from St. Louis pretty soon.
Awesome. We're holding our breath a little bit. We're definitely excited to get it, but we understand. So we'll wait. Yeah.
Oh, we definitely will.
Yeah.
No, we went through the unboxing. We saw all the components. We're going to get into the conversation here shortly about the gameplay that Mitchell's had and his thoughts on the game itself. I've watched some how-to plays,
Yep.
including a how to teach by very handsome fellow. Did a video on how to teach.
Yep, and we've had a couple people from our game group here in Tampa who have played it, and so we're also planning on having a couple of them call in after Mitchell gets done with his introduction of everything. So we're going to get some more opinions on people's first plays. I know they've had the couple guys in our group have played it at least a couple of times each, so we're gonna get all those first impressions here, hopefully, as we go through the night.
Awesome.
You got a good fan base out here in Tampa, and now connected to Louisiana via Zoom. It's our first time having a guest host, so the show is really starting to evolve.
Yeah.
It's real interesting.
Yeah. That's really cool that you can bring in someone live like this and still have people call in and chat about it.
I'm trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
And Jamey, do you have a few minutes?
Posted in the Red Rising group, so I think other people, maybe some new people, might be tuning in tonight and watching it for the first time.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I was going to ask if you have a few minutes to stay on with us. I don't know whether you were just going to call and jump in or jump out or what.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I'm happy to hang on.
Yeah, if you could stay on, and then Mitchell, go ahead and tell us a little bit more about the game, and then if we have people call in, well, I guess right now
we can't because Jamey's on the phone.
But we can talk to Mitchell about his experience with it and find out how he liked it.
So Mitchell, what's your thought? What do you? I mean, you got Jamey on the line. What do you say to Jamey about your thoughts? No pressure.
Yeah.
Well, so the thing, should I finish explaining the quick gameplay real quick?
Yeah, no, we've all done the gameplay. We've watched it, but just tell Jamey your thoughts.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, no pressure here. I'm just
Yeah.
yeah. So what I was going to say, I was very pleasantly surprised with how much strategy goes into it, because I was just telling the guys, the rules I could probably teach in under 5 minutes, which it's very accessible. Yeah. But for a game that has such easy to comprehend rules, there is a ton of strategy and forward thinking that you have to have. Like I said, I've just played 2 games, and both of them were completely different. And I think that's coming from just how many cards there are. The balance that I struggle to find, which it's a great kind of frustration that you love in board games, is do I use this card for its awesome deployability, or do I want to keep it for the victory points at the end? And finding the right time in the game to switch from, okay, I need to stop focusing on the deployabilities and start focusing on getting a good hand for in game. Because I'm the kind of guy personally, like, for example, when I play Scythe, my goal is to get those 6 stars out as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
My friends make fun of me because I'm if the game can end quicker, Mitchell's going to be the one trying to make it happen. And so my tendency with Red Rising is to, okay, get Helium, move my fleet up, get Influence in the Institute. But that's not necessarily the way to play this game, I don't think, because if your hand's not just right, then ending the game, kind of like in Scythe, if you don't have enough.
Yeah, you can end the game and lose.
Exactly.
So it's like that too. Nice.
Another thing I like about the game is that usually when you play a card in a game, it's gone. But it's very common, especially in our 2-player games. I put a card down. I'm hoping my opponent doesn't pick it up because I want that back, because I want to be able to play it again. And I really like that as well. So honestly, in my first play, we may have only seen, 30 cards of this big deck, because we kept wanting to use the same cards over and over again. So that's why whenever I played my second game, it felt like I was playing a completely different game, because I was seeing cards that I'd never seen before. And it was just a completely different dynamic. I really enjoyed that as well.
Was that your intent, Jamey, in designing it, the feelings that he shared?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Mitchell touched upon some great things here. I love, and we wanted to include, it was kind of a tough balance. We wanted to include enough cards so there would be a ton of replayability, but not so many cards. I mean, I think there are 112 character cards in the game. We wanted there to not be so many that the interactions between the different types of cards wouldn't work anymore. And we mathed it out to the best that we could, and we thought that 7 cards for each of the colors, each of the 14 colors. Actually, no, each of the 12 colors. The golds, there are 21 of them. There are more golds, would work out well. Yeah.
Now, points wise, right? Because he talked a little bit about comboing. our buddy posted last night. It was like, what, midnight when he posted in our little chat room.
Yeah.
He finished his game at like 270-something points. Do the games tend to score that high?
That is a pretty solid score. Yeah, that's a good score. It depends a little bit. Like in Red Rising, it's up to the players to determine when the game ends. The game does a lot to encourage you to move the game forward. You're getting points if you move the game forward by doing things like advancing on the fleet track, putting down influence on the Institute, and gaining helium. That's a good for you. The game wants you to do that. But if players take their time with some of those end game conditions, then it's more likely that all players will have a higher score. So that's you at certain points in like the Red Rising Facebook group, you might see people posting really, really high scores, and that's likely because their group just took a little longer to move towards the end game.
Just playing it out longer, yeah.
And that's usually what happens with me in games like Scythe. I'm over here just building the engine and enjoying the engine.
Right,
and just kind of doing the game, but I'm not getting stars.
That's a Carlos thing, yeah.
So I guess I need to have a Mitchell on my side or next to me who's moving the game forward to conclusion.
Yep.
Well, Jamey, thank you so much for the opportunity for you calling in and taking our call back since we had the line busy.
Yeah.
We really appreciate what you've done with just, talking about the game with us is huge. So we really appreciate that.
Thanks for talking about my game. I'm honored that you guys do that. And yeah, I'll leave you guys to it. Mitchell, feel free to say critical stuff too when you're with it. I mean, you don't have to. Feel free to say whatever you want. I'm probably going to go focus on a little game design for a few minutes, so I won't listen to the next few minutes if you want to dig into some things that you weren't happy with.
Appreciate you.
I promise everything about the gameplay is positive coming from me, and that's unbiased. I'm 100% telling the truth. I enjoy it.
From Tampa, Florida, from New Iberia, Louisiana. We want to thank you for calling, Jamey. Have a good night.
Thanks, Jamey.
All right. Take care, guys.
Right. Bye-bye.
I can't get over that. Like, that is so cool.
one of the top names in the business right now, and we'll hopefully be able to touch on it.
And that's what I was hoping for. And I saw that he called while the phone line was off, so I was glad he was able to jump back in and take that call. Yeah, because I was really hoping for Mitchell to be able to have that conversation.
Yeah, that was cool. Thank you guys for the opportunity.
Sure, absolutely.
I want to thank you for sharing the game. Yeah. We do have some questions here though coming through the chatter, so I want to hit you with them, Mitchell. No pressure. So Wayne Kruger talks about the game definitely being a draw for the books and the fans of Stonemaier games. But he asks, what would be the elevator pitch to draw in those that have not read the books? So what the 30-second elevator pitch, what would you say it is?
So I literally just played today with a friend of mine who had not read the books. And first of all, just let me say, after playing the game, he wanted to go read the books.
Okay.
But I would say kind of some of the things I just mentioned, the fact that you play a card and it's not gone, the fact that you control the length of the game, and the fact that the pairings of the cards, which I didn't get to talk to yet, it's all about building a good hand, but also if you're keeping it in your hand, you can't use its unique ability. So those are kind of some unique things that I haven't seen in other games that kind of makes it different, even if you don't know the universe.
Okay. And so the victory point part of it, and I know we haven't gotten completely through the explanation, but so the victory points that you're getting are they entirely off of the cards you have in your hand at the end?
No, it's not. It's not.
Okay.
If you want me to show real
Sure,
really
yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
keep it going.
Whenever you play a card, you do its ability, and then you grab a card from somewhere else. And there are different abilities that happen based on where you draw that card from. So you either move up on your fleet track, which is here, which the victory points scale.
Okay.
You grab some helium, which is 3 points each. You get the sovereign token, which is 10 points if you have it at the end of the game. And it also triggers your house ability, or you put influence of the Institute. So the ways that you get victory points, and I'll show you the little scoring thing here. Okay. So that's your victory points from your cards, your base value. Right. So every card has a base value in the top corner, but they all, not all of them, but most of them have an ability at the bottom. Like for example, this says you get 15 points if you also have the Octavia card. But let me think of find another example. This one's not as specific. It says 5 points for every red and brown you have in your deck. So there's all kind of pairings, but there's also negative. Like this one says, if this one is with Orion, then you get negative 15 points. So it's all about building the right hand. So then there's your.
How many cards in your hand at the end of the game?
So you start with 5, and there's no card limit. However, every card above 7 deducts 10 points from you. Which in the rule book I really liked. It said it's as you get a bigger army, it's harder to manage, and that's what it's kind of representing. But the thing is, a really good card could maybe get you 30, 40 points, so it kind of counteracts, But so anyway, there's the cards, there's the points from the fleet track, which scale up 3 points per helium token, 10 points if you have the sovereign. And then for the Institute, whoever has the most influence gets 4 points per influence. Second place is 2 points for influence. Then everybody is 1. So in my opinion, going with helium is going to be the worst way to get points, because this is always 3 points.
Right.
This scales if you're first, and this scales as you move up the track.
Okay.
We got a question here from Aaron Clark in the chat. He says, game length is important to me. Do you think this game's weight and strategy/tactics match its playtime? I hate when a game overstays its welcome or ends too quickly. So the amount of energy, what I'm gathering from that question, the amount of energy you're spending on strategy and tactics, how does that time of play match that?
Yeah, because you mentioned the 30 minutes, so I would assume that would maybe concern some people that it ends too soon. Although I think that's his fault. The ending is variable, right?
Yeah.
That's Mitchell's fault.
So like I said, the box says 45 to 60 minutes. I didn't put a timer on, but I would say both of my games were about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But like I said, I'm a kind of gamer.
Pushing it.
It's not necessarily a good thing,
yeah.
But I accelerate the game.
Sure.
And in this game, I'm learning that's not necessarily the way to do it. The second game I just played, I was the one who triggered the end of the game, but I lost.
Sure.
So it probably would have been better for me to draw it out more.
Yeah.
I definitely think that it's it's a lot of game. There's a lot of stress. I mean, you could play this and not stress. You could just say, yeah, I'll do this card, and be fine and get an average score. But to really do well, and I haven't mastered this yet, and I think it's going to take a lot of plays to do that, it's really going to take a really good balance between playing the cards for their abilities or matching them up for their points.
Yeah, yeah. And I just have to mention, going back to that card play, Fantasy Realms, I don't know whether you've ever played that. Fantasy Realms, that reminds me a lot of that interaction. Fantasy Realms is just a deck of cards. I know Michael Lorenzo from our group, who has played Red Rising. He has one of the early copies of it and played it a couple times this week. I'm hoping maybe he'll have a chance to call in tonight. He mentioned that it very strongly reminded him of Fantasy Realms, which is one of his favorites.
That's the note that Jamie put in there talking about how Fantasy Realms really inspired him.
Oh, there you go. Okay, awesome. I was not aware of that.
I watched one of his YouTube videos years ago. This is his favorite book series. So whenever he got permission from the author to do it, he said he tried 4 or 5 different iterations, and either the gameplay was great, but he didn't feel like it matched the story, or the story was great, but the gameplay wasn't great. And so he kind of had to take a step back from it.
Sure.
He said it took years, much longer than his regular games. And one night he was playing Fantasy Realms, and it kind of clicked for him. He says it like there in there. And that's whenever he was able to make it happen.
Awesome.
Want to remind the folks at home, 813-618-7099 is the phone number. Our phone line is open. Jamey Stegmaier just finished the first call of the day, but the phone line is open, 813-618-7099. Give us a ring. Oh, wow, they just had to say it one time, and that's all it took.
Somebody's calling.
Let's
see who's
take
on the
a
line
peek
here.
Beans and Nice Podcast. State your name, where you're calling from.
Hey, it's Mike Lorenzo from Temple Terrace.
Hey, Mike, I mentioned your name, and you called in, so I don't know if
Mike
you heard me.
Lowe.
My ears were burning.
I bet.
So Mitchell just walked us through an unboxing of Red Rising. We talked a little bit about his gameplay, and we're getting a little deeper into some of the strategy and tactics that he had in the game. I know you posted up the other night or last night, I think it was. You got some big points in your game. What are your thoughts?
So I played last night 2-player, and then I played tonight, actually at your turn, I played with Dan and somebody else. I played a 3-player game as well.
Cool.
And I think this is going to be a game that is definitely going to hit the table a lot for me.
Awesome.
And I think part of that reason is definitely because I think you guys touched on this earlier. It teaches so fast.
Yeah.
And you really don't need, kind of like what was being said earlier, is you can kind of just take it easy and just play your game. But to really excel at it, you do have to pay attention to the cards and the end of game extra points, at the bottom of each card, like was said earlier.
And let me ask you, you mentioned you've played it 2 players and 3 players. How long were your games? Did you keep a clock on it at all?
I do on my app. I can't pull it up right now, but I would say the 2-player game, maybe 40 minutes.
Okay.
You know, it was our first game.
Sure.
And then the one that we played tonight, I would say it probably took about 45 minutes because it was also a teach.
Okay.
But we were kind of I think we were trying to push the game to end sooner, just as a strategy, not because we didn't want to play it, but just as a strategy.
Sure. That's what Mitchell was saying, is that he tends to push games in general, and that his two plays, both the two players. Is that what you said, Mitchell?
Yeah, they were both the two players. One time it worked for me, one time it didn't.
Okay, yeah. One time he pushed the end and he lost, and one time he pushed it and won. But both those plays, I think he said, were about 30 minutes. So
Jamey Stegmaier was talking about that.
Players.
He says that the game really does allow the players to dictate the length,
right,
and the amount of points. I was sharing with him how many points you got, and he says that seems kind of high. That's a good amount of points, and I think it had to do with the desire to either try to keep your engine going and maximize your points without pushing that end trigger. That's because we don't have a Mitchell on the side on our side.
Yeah, pushing that game. Yeah.
Yeah. Just to give a couple of comments about the game. I mean, if Jeremy's listening or not, and so you guys can open up the lines for other people that may have played. I will say that the first game that I played with my son, who typically he will ask a lot of questions during a game when he's first learning it. And it's just because he wants to know, like, everything there is to know, you know,
Sure.
before we start playing.
Yeah.
He had minimal questions. Like, I don't think I've taught a game faster than this with him playing than this one. And it was just like, boom, he caught on real quick. Now, granted, he has played Fantasy Realms in the past.
Sure.
So I think, you know, the bottom actions after the game, that was pretty much, you know, he already had that down. But the few questions that he asked were legit. And, I mean, really, we were just in the game playing pretty quick.
Michael, I've heard it said that this is a more gamers game version of Fantasy Realms. I've not played Fantasy Realms. Would you say that, like, this is the
kind of a step up, or
this is the, you know, Midgard with Valhalla
Absolutely.
of Midgard?
yeah?
Like the gamer version?
I would definitely say it's the gamer version, because when you're playing Fantasy Realms, you're just paying attention to cards.
Right.
You
It's
know,
a deck of cards.
There's nothing else that are points. And with this, you know, you have, you know, you've got the track, you know, with your ship. You've got, you know, the influence. You've got the helium. And it's kind of like, well, you know, am I going to be able to catch up on influence? Maybe I should be paying more attention to my helium, you know, to gain points that way. It's just, it adds definitely a few more layers, especially with the card placement, you know, because when you're deploying your card, you've got an action there.
Right.
And then when you're picking up a card, you've got, you know, the bonus that you're picking up from that. But even, I mean, you can be drawing blind and then rolling the die, you know, so there's definitely a lot of different ways that you can attack this game that lead to the replayability, as well as the number of cards. I mean, I've played twice, and I probably still haven't seen half the cards, you know, come out in a game.
I think that's what Mitchell was sharing, talking about seeing only 30 cards out of that whole stack so far.
And let me ask you, Michael. Neither Carlos nor I knew this before Mitchell told us tonight, but there are some asymmetrical starting powers or abilities for the different factions, the different groups. What did you think about that? Were they subtle? Were they strong? Were they balanced?
Well, funny enough, last night when I played, and I apologize for not knowing the faction names, but the blue
Mitchell
and
will
the
correct you.
Colored. Yes, I'm sure.
Yeah. Blue and mustard.
And the mustard colored.
Jupiter and Apollo.
Jupiter Apollo.
Yeah. So those came out last night, and we were drawing random, and then tonight, the blue and mustard card and the green one came out tonight. So I still haven't even been able to see all the house cards yet.
Right.
But like with the blue card, it focuses more on the track at the top. Where when you pick up the sovereign token,
The fleet track?
you're the fleet track. So you're moving up the track every time that you get the fleet token or pull from that area. So it allows you to focus possibly on other areas of the game. Whereas I know the mustard colored one, and I'm sorry for not knowing the names, but you start with an extra card, and then I think you can discard a card at the end of the game.
Right.
So and then I know like with the gold, when you get the gold house, you get an extra turn at the end of the game because they're like higher up in the books. I haven't read the books, but I've definitely added all the books to my Audible.
You know how to read?
Yeah, I added them all to my wish list now on Audible,
yeah.
so I'm definitely interested in reading those.
No. Well, I always
But
appreciate.
anyway,
Go ahead.
I'll let you guys go. But I just the one criticism that I was going to say, and I think this is it's minor, but when you get a lot of cards in a certain area, or you have to pick up the cards to really read what what the bonuses are. If those are the cards that you may want to be going for, you have to pick them up and then you have to read them and put them back down. I don't think there's a way to really mitigate that. And again, it's just for me, it's a minor quibble. And I think once you start playing the game a little bit more, you're going to start, knowing that if this is my strategy, these are the cards that I feel like I should be going for. But the one genius thing that was added that I wish they did in Fantasy Realms was on the side of the card, some of the cards, if they work better with certain names or certain colors, they will be marked on the side of the card, which I just thought
the left side.
Genius addition.
Oh yeah, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Mitchell's showing us.
Looks like the stripes for a Dodge, kind of like that.
Well, those specific colors.
Yeah.
Like chevrons or something.
Little chevrons.
And then
yeah.
they'll have X's. Yeah, they'll have X's over the colors or people that those
Oh,
cards
that's
really don't
legit.
work well
to stay
with.
away from. Oh, cool. That's
hey,
awesome.
Hey, Jamey,
Yeah.
that
was smart.
That's great UI.
Yep, that's smart.
Yeah, so that definitely helps a lot with. Well, maybe that does mitigate reading the cards a little bit. But anyway. All right, so that's my thought, guys. I was just calling in to give you my thoughts, and I'll let you get back to the presentation there.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Bobby.
Thanks
We
for calling
appreciate
in.
it.
Yeah. We'll talk to you again
All
soon,
right,
Mike.
guys.
Thanks.
Happy gaming, man.
Happy gaming.
Bye-bye.
Yep, see ya.
All right, folks, that opens up the phone line again, 813-618-7099, 813-618-7099. Phone line is open for you to provide your comments, ask questions, or to talk about what you got going on gaming-wise. I did have a question for you, Mitchell. When we talk about the board, right, so we have the different locations on the board. What does playing to that location do? What are the restrictions to where you can play? Because I know that it's going to begin overlapping cards.
Yeah, so you're basically just burying cards maybe that you don't want your opponent to have, right? Is that one of the strategies? Is that maybe you're trying to
Yeah, that's part of it. There's a lot of counter picking and counter playing like that.
Okay.
But it also depends on the card interaction. So this one, for example, says if deployed on Jupiter, advance once on the fleet track. So
So these are
I can play
card
this anyway.
text.
But if I played on Jupiter, I get an extra benefit.
Gotcha. Okay. So you got to make that decision. Do I want to play it over there to try to cover a card that I think maybe my opponent's going to want to pick up in a minute, or do I put it somewhere where there's an extra bonus?
Right. Or let's just say with that card, let's say I want to pick up a card from Jupiter,
Sure.
but also want to play this. If I cover that card now, I can't
You
pick
can't
it
pick it up.
Right.
So
Or you want to
have
block somebody else from picking it up.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's, we were kind of talking about that before the call, talking about the scoring. And it's different from Scythe. With Scythe, pretty much everything is public knowledge whenever you get that 6-star.
Yep.
But with this, I pushed to the end of the game, but I would say more than 50% of the points are hidden from me because it's in their deck. So you don't know when you end the game who's going to win or not. And even if I could see their deck, I wouldn't know.
Sure.
Because all these different card interactions at the bottom take some figuring out. I have my score sheets right here. My buddy who beat me just now, he had 247 points. Of those 247, 164 were from cards. So there was no way for me to know that he had that many more points than I did,
Okay.
And I really, really like that.
So
about
he
it.
was glad to see you push towards the end. He focused on
I don't think-
engine
well, the thing
building.
is,
and
I
you
don't think he realized he was happy until he saw the score because he didn't know either. to be
Sure.
honest.
Yeah, it's all hidden.
know-
Yeah, most of it's hidden. Yeah.
Yeah. He didn't know how many points I had. He knows how I am, but he might have assumed that I'm pushing to the end because I have a really good hand.
Right. And that's kind of the way Fantasy Realms is if right early in the game, if you just happened to draw some cards early that comboed up and gave you those bonus points, then you would really push to try to finish it because you figure, even though I don't know what my opponent's got, I had a pretty darn good start, so I'm going to try to jump on them right now and see if I can end this thing, and then your opponent's playing tactics to try to stall if they don't have it. But so I would see that there's probably some similarity in that, depending on how strong you think you come out of the gate.
I actually might disagree with that because this past time I felt like I had a good starting hand, but I have the whole game in front of me, and that's your main way that you're doing actions is playing the card.
You can't hang on to them.
Hand that's good. I mean, it cripples you.
Oh yeah,
you know
that makes sense. Yeah.
Oh, my brain would fall apart. Like I don't want to get rid of any of these.
Yeah.
Like I want to just hang on to all of these.
That can happen in fantasy realms for sure.
So there is a way. There is an alternate action you can take, which I rarely have done, where if you don't want to play any of your cards, you can just pick a card from anywhere. From the deck, I mean, and play it on any space and get the bonus. So you can still want to do one of these 4 actions, but it's like gypping yourself because you're not playing a card and getting that action. It's like you're getting half of a turn.
Yeah.
So you probably would do that more toward the end of the game, but it's figuring out when you have to switch because the game could change like this. It's not just you're getting 1 helium every turn. It could be like there's one card that says choose a location and a color. For every card of that color on that location, get a helium. So if there's 5 golds and I play that, I can get 5 heliums in 1 turn. And remember, and the victory condition is 7. You have to get 7 on your fleet, 7 in the institute, or 7 helium. Once all those 3 are done, everybody finishes
triggers the end game. Yeah.
Or if one person has done 2 of those things.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
It's kind of like terraforming Mars.
Yeah.
Different things to push for.
Yep. Yep.
And I'm sorry, what was your friend's name who just called?
Michael.
Yeah, and he was talking about balancing which one you go to. There's a card, for example, for whatever reason, I usually tend to have a lot of helium. I don't know why. I haven't figured out why yet. But there's a card that says steal helium from the person who has the most. So you kind of want to stay closer to your opponent if possible. So, because if you get too far, there's kind of, I don't want to call it a catch-up mechanic, but there are ways to kind of bring you back into your place.
I see where that gets more interesting with more players. With 3 or 4 players, you've got that balance. Maybe you don't want to be first. You want to be second in several different categories so that you can maximize those points but not have people targeting you constantly. So, yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
This game seems to have a lot of depth.
Some layers. Like an onion. Layers.
No, like a parfait.
Like a parfait. Okay. Sure, we'll go there.
All right, ogre.
Yeah, exactly. Got layers, this guy.
I'm really looking forward to more players in the game. I'm playing tomorrow with 3 people.
Cool.
Because, like I said, with the number of cards coming into play, my first game, it wasn't a problem because all the cards that we had initially at the beginning of the game were really good. And so we kept cycling through those. The second game, it's like me and my buddy, neither of us liked the cards we had. And so we had to keep kind of mining the deck, which you can do that. If you don't want to pick any of these cards, you can pick from the top.
From the top instead of pulling, but you don't get the bonus of the card pull.
Well, you do get a bonus, but you don't get to pick. It's random.
Oh.
I really like that.
Okay.
Because, see, all of these are going to give you victory points, but this side, this is like, I don't remember exactly what it is. Like, look at, there's a player aid that I don't have. This is like discard a card from the player mat, and this one's like draw a card and put it on. But it doesn't directly benefit me. I mean, maybe in the long game.
Sure.
So I don't really want to get one of those. I want to get one of these things.
Yeah.
So, but again, it's kind of, you're playing 2 turns ahead because if I don't have any cards that are going to benefit me, might as well use this turn to maybe get something out that I can get next time. The problem is I can't get it till my next turn. So if I pick a really good card, my opponent can get it before me, and I wasted a turn to do that.
You drew a random, which could be a bad card, and you gave them a nice card stacked on, ready to be scooped up.
Yeah.
But that kind of reminds me of Tapestry with the random die.
Yeah, for sure.
100%.
Which I need some of that sometimes, right? Because, I mean, if we just talk straight strategy,
well,
I'm not sure Huckleberry. It's just not going to happen, right? I need some randomness to be able to help me, win a game on occasion.
Whenever I play Tapestry, I always push the conquest track, and I will never, if possible, put an outpost on something that doesn't have a resource on it. The starting ones.
Right.
If I roll that die and it's question mark and I get nothing, I am angry.
Yeah.
So I where you're coming from. There needs to be a little bit of randomness, but I don't like it. But I agree. It needs to happen sometimes.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
Oh, we got a call coming in. Let's take a peek. Beans and Dice Podcast. State your name and where you calling from.
Hey, it's Barry from Tampa.
Hello,
Hey,
Barry.
How are you?
Happy Thursday.
Hey, good. Happy Thursday. So I know you said you wanted to talk a little bit about Death Zone if you had time. I didn't know if you guys had mostly covered tonight's main topic or not.
No, you made time. This is the fun part where the callers call in and take our topic and switch it to their own. So Death Zone. I just got my copy of the book as well for Robert. He knows Blood Bowl. Yep. I'm not sure if Mitchell knows much about Blood Bowl, but Blood Bowl is a fantasy football game by Games Workshop, and they just produced their first expansion book called Death Zone, which actually put into canon for the first time my favorite version of Blood Bowl. They now have official Blood Bowl sevens rules in the book. So this book, what it does is it takes your miniature game that you play, it's fantasy football. And what I mean by that is like dwarves versus elves versus orcs, right? Fantasy playing football. More like rugby.
Different kind of fantasy
but they're
football,
playing
yeah.
football.
Sure. Yeah.
So I just got my copy of it and began reading through that. Barry, what are your thoughts on the new Death Zone that released this Saturday?
I have to say, I really like I think it's going to open up a lot of options for league play. I like all the different stadium options where you can roll to see what kind of stadium you're playing in. And then based off that, you roll to see what effect the stadium gives you. Like, are you in the hometown stadium? Are you in the really beat up stadium? Are you in the super nice stadium? I like the fact that they added different weather tables as well. So, if you want to say, hey, we're playing in a blizzard, you have choices for that. Or
because we all love watching a Green Bay game in the snow. It makes for mayhem.
Sure.
So I thought that all that was neat. It looks like the sevens rules, from what I could see, are almost taken straight from the ones that were already out, the unofficial one, except they changed one or two of the kickoff results.
Yeah, I think the kickoff results were a little bit changed. The Nuffle table pretty much stayed the same, but then they added development of the players now. So there's a league structure where your players actually develop after each game.
Sure.
So now you can play it in a league format. But they also simplified it, right? Because there used to be on the injury table for the game, you would have to roll a die and you could have like a badly injured, or you could have a dead result, or you can have many other things that impact your strength, your speed, other types of stats. They simplified it. They either said you're out and going to miss the next game as a little player, or you're dead. Right?
Okay.
That's simplified.
Dead.
Now, that's just in sevens, right?
Yep, in sevens they did that. And the idea behind that is they want to be able to allow you to introduce this to a younger audience, right? There's less for them to keep track of. Right? I don't have to keep track of, well, this guy's got a broken skull, so now he's got a -1 to his armor, right? Or his armor rolls or something. It's just simplified that.
Yeah, or maybe even to an audience that just doesn't want to get as deep into it.
Yes.
Or a player like me, just some beer and pretzels is the term you use a lot. Just roll some dice, do some things, yeah.
I also thought the mercenaries they added were really interesting, and the giant was interesting, but I think to use the giant, people are going to have to make a special base just for the giant since it takes up 4 squares.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at the giant, and I've seen people print them out. I don't know if I'd ever play with one, but there's a lot of options in there. I just got started in that book. I haven't been full deep in it, but I know I'm going this weekend to Melbourne.
Yep.
To play in a tournament, a 2-day tournament. It'll be Saturday and Sunday all day. So I'll post up and let y'all know in the chat room how my results were. So too bad I'll miss Barry on that one, but I'll catch him for the one in May.
Yes, we'll be going up for the one in May. Oh, did you get the minis I dropped off today?
Yep, I got the minis, and I'll take them with me and make sure they get over to James.
All right, cool.
Cool.
Oh,
All
Nick
right,
Oben says, with the new changes, so you can no longer break my War Dancer's neck. I still remember the day I broke his War Dancer's neck.
Oh, yeah.
That was amazing. the scream that came is something I'll never forget.
Well, thanks for calling, Barry.
Thanks, Barry. Have a good evening, man.
All right, have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.
See if Mitchell's still with us there?
Oh, yeah, he's still with us.
Okay, we hit him for a minute. But yeah.
That William said in the chat room, this is where Rob starts to fall asleep.
Yeah, a little bit.
The Blood Bowl.
Blood Bowl's not my thing. I know Blood Bowl, but it's not my thing. But yeah.
We got a question for you here from Wayne. Wayne asked, how long does the final scoring take for a 30-minute play time? Would hate to spend 5 or more minutes.
I was getting ready to ask that.
Counting scores.
So it doesn't take super long. I mean, most of the things are pretty much instantaneous. The cards are a little tedious, but I know there's a scoring app that helps. I mean,
I was going to ask. Fantasy Realms has a scoring app. Yes. Okay.
Will you snap pictures of it?
No, this one you just touch the cards. There's
that you have.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And it puts them all into a hand and then calculates.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. I don't think it's that advanced. I haven't used it, but
okay.
What I do is I do all the quick things first, and then I total up the base victory points on the card, and then I go to these. But
Okay.
I like whoever it was that was saying, it has these things here
Michael.
that kind of clue you in.
Yep.
And so it goes faster than you think. It's not, in my opinion, it's more simple than, say, like Scythe. You're doing this multiplication and adding things up, which I'm not complaining about. It's a great game. I love it. But just comparatively, there are still a lot of things, but all of these are much, much quicker, with the exception of the cards. But
you're going to be limited to no more than 7, right? If you're smart.
You can have.
Oh, that's right.
If you're smart, you'll have no more than 7, because anything past.
I didisaagree.
Although,
I disagree.
I mean, if a card gets
This
you
card has
35,
35 points.
yeah, there you go. Exactly. So
minus
losing 10 is
it's still
okay.
25.
You still net 25.
English is not my first language.
Yeah. So it depends on
Neither is math.
Depends on those interactions, but that's what I was going to say. That my feel is then from what you're saying is that it's probably not, the interactions probably are not quite as complicated as they are in Fantasy Realms, because, well, like I say, Fantasy Realms is just a deck of cards, so the whole game is based off of those keywords and those interactions, and so there's a lot of text at the bottom of those cards. So it sounds like this one's a little more streamlined. There's still, you still got to know what you're going for, what works with what combos, but it sounds like it's not as deep as Fantasy Realms. So maybe that scoring app that Fantasy Realms has maybe a little more than what would be needed here, but that's really neat to hear that there's an app that assists with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And see, I'm not trying to hype myself up here, but I mean, I feel like it's checking so many boxes for me, and Rob knows this of me lately.
Sure.
My focus has been on just lighter, faster, fun games, right?
Just
Getting
check that
more
box.
of those in a night versus, being stuck in a rule book trying to figure something out in a long 3-hour game. My brain's not there for it right now. Where I'm
this
at
is definitely
physically.
one that I would think once you get it out, you could bang out 2 or 3 games.
That's what I was going to say.
I mean,
30, 45
all you
minutes.
have to do is shuffle the cards, and you're pretty much reset. And the setup takes about a minute.
Man,
You shuffle the
I'm getting
cards.
more excited,
Yeah.
more and more excited about that copy.
Hold your breath a little more about
I
that
think I need
copy
to
coming.
send an email to his customer service team to ask for a status on my game.
See if they can overnight it. You pay the
Isn't that
extra,
pretty cool?
you know?
Jamie calls me to give me a status on the game.
Yeah,
That's special treatment right
that's
there.
hands on.
man.
But that's the way
You got
Jamie
the
is.
full-
Yeah, if you've seen him in the media and you've seen him, I mean, he makes himself so accessible.
He is.
and he's
Yeah.
he's
And
such
I
a
love his content he puts out too, man. He's such an accessible and transparent designer. I love it.
yeah. And I was going to say, hopefully in the future we'll get to touch on him with him if he gets back with us at some point. But he publicly released his financials last week, and that's something that he did.
He's not even a
have to
public
do,
company.
right? Because he's not a publicly
It
traded
was like
company.
18 million.
And there are a lot of other people in the gaming industry who said that they actually disagree with him doing that, and that it kind of sets a bad precedence for a lot of these other companies that will never do that because it makes it look like they're trying to hide things. So I mean, there's two sides of the coin there, but it's interesting. I'm hearing a lot of debate.
I would have never
about
guessed.
it. Yeah.
I guess I would have never guessed that much money flowed through for the gaming industry in just that one company.
Yeah.
But it all kind of started making sense to me because you look at Hasbro, right? One of the largest toy manufacturers in the world, if not the largest.
Sure.
And come to find out recently that Wizards of the Coast is their biggest moneymaker. Like the majority of their stuff doesn't make money, but Wizards of the Coast is their bread and butter. Right, the D&D line, the Magic the Gathering line.
Maybe on the
That's
gaming-
where they make the most of their
gaming
money.
side, sure. Yeah.
So you got this huge conglomerate of a company, which I'm on their his Hasbro Pulse because I'm waiting for the new release of Hero Quest.
Hero Quest, yeah.
The redo of Hero Quest, to find out that board gaming, RPG gaming, card gaming is what keeps that company going.
Yeah.
Right now, I feel like it's not that much of a surprise to hear that Jamey's being able to bring in that much revenue.
Right. One of the big things that came out, and again, we're not going to go down this road too far because I'd like to get into it on a different date when we have a little time. But I guess one of the big eye openers for people is that he has sold now 750,000 copies of Wingspan, and that was some of those numbers that came out. People were curious.
750,000 copies?
Yeah, so people were
That's
curious
nuts.
about how well we saw it win all the awards. We knew it was doing phenomenally well, but yeah,
I wouldn't have imagined that because I felt like the strain to get a copy for so long.
Oh yeah, yeah,
right. And I guess I'll say that the feeling was that it was a false demand, a false supply issue in
shortage.
order to create demand. But see, hearing those numbers makes me say, no, that's not the case. He was pumping them out.
Right.
He just couldn't pump them out fast enough.
Right. Once he knew, and early on, I know the answer was that no game designer, no matter how popular they think their game is, and no matter how well it does in playtesting and with testing audiences, there's so much risk in overprinting and having games just sit on shelves, having extra inventory. The amount they spend on getting these games printed and out the door and shipped all over the world is it only makes sense for them to be conservative and to print on the conservative side. If the game goes gangbusters like Wingspan did, then again, I mean, you've got that supply and demand. More people want it. You get a lot of press off of it, so I guess that doesn't hurt either because people are talking about it so much. But it's just it's an unnecessary risk to go all in and to print, 500,000 copies or whatever, just because you think it's going to do well. Every designer, I'm sure, every producer thinks that their game's gonna do well, or they wouldn't put it out there. So, yeah.
Well, the amazing thing is, not only are they doing that much revenue, but then their customer service is just amazing.
Oh, yeah.
I know you guys know a little bit of the details, but FedEx, it seemed, had lost this package last week, and I reached out to them, got an immediate response. If it didn't show up in a couple of days, they were going to rush me another copy on their dime.
Yeah.
And it's like, with big company, I mean, it's not a big company. I think there's only
it's like 5 people there.
Yeah. I think it's Jamey and a couple of, Joe Aubrey. I know him.
He just started hiring some folks this last year.
Yeah.
It was like around pendulum time, I think, about a year ago.
Yeah.
Mad props, much success, much continued success to someone who is dedicated to the craft that way.
Such a nice guy.
And as accessible as they are.
Yeah.
I mean, because we're not going to talk to anyone at Asmodee like that.
Not yet. We got some growing to do, but yeah. Anyway, I know a couple chats just came. Anybody say anything?
Are we going to do any war games soon?
Oh, we got the war game contingent out there. So
that's my people.
Yeah, I know.
That's my people.
We're kind of getting to the end of the hour here, so I don't want to rush you. If you have anything else to contribute there, Mitchell, if you have anything else you want to say, but I do want to mention that I'm liking this format. This is the first time we've tried having somebody. I guess we've deemed
guest
it a
host?
guest host, but I think this is really cool. And if anybody else is interested, anybody who's listening who has a passion or has wants to spend half a show or something doing something similar. I think this is something that
Robert, we didn't discuss this yet.
Yeah, we have to talk about it.
I'm kidding. My goal has always been.
Yeah,
my goal has always been to be with y'all, the people.
Right.
Like the show is not me and Rob. It's me and Rob filling time between talking to y'all.
Exactly.
So Mitchell, I want to thank you for making yourself accessible.
This was awesome
for us because we got to enjoy through you the review or discussion of. Red Rising, and the folks here were able to call in and have an opportunity to talk to you about it, ask you questions. They asked questions on the chat.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
That was very cool. Yeah. And
I enjoyed myself, and I want to say thank you as well. Anytime you'd like me back. Also, my Louisiana people, if you're watching, hit subscribe. These guys are awesome. And I'll be expecting the paycheck soon.
We'll send the check.
Yeah, let's give them 50% of what we get.
Oh, yeah, exactly. 50% of all gross revenue.
Gotcha.
Absolutely. But yeah, this has been a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to sometime maybe when we can actually get together in person and play some games. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I want to.
Yeah, I was already talking to my wife. I said, there's things we could do over in Florida. Busch Gardens and stuff.
Yeah. That would be cool. Very cool.
And she agreed to it, which is the crazy part.
Oh, wow.
So.
Awesome.
Well, that's how you do it.
Tampa's not the worst place to come. So, yeah.
I know, right? I know.
Super Bowl champs, baby.
Oh, yeah. Super Bowl
champs and almost a World Series. Don't get me started.
Yeah.
Lighting champs.
Yeah.
Super Bowl champs. Almost World Series champs.
Yeah.
So, good place to be. Well, Mitchell, we'll catch you on the next episode when you call in.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll have more to say about your continued plays.
Yeah, you can give us an update maybe next week if you get some more plays in. Yeah.
Mitchell and I have talked. Hopefully, when I get my copy, we're going to try to do a remote play.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
Kind of like how you and I did Keyforge.
Right, yep.
There was a time there when Robert and I were doing games via remote.
Villainous, yeah.
But tabletop, right?
Yep.
So like actual cards and dice and paper, but just using cameras. So Mitchell and I will give that a try.
Cool.
And then we'll report back to let you all know how compatible that game is for a remote play session. Cool. Right? Was it hard? How much time does it add to the game? Is it worth doing? I know a lot of people like to do TTS, Tabletop Simulator. Mitchell and I were talking about it, but that's not my thing. So I think we're going to try that. So
cool.
Yeah, my only concern is just there's so many cards, but I think we can make it work.
Well, if you sort them by color, I can just show them to you on camera, and then you can go to that color, pull out that card, and put it in your hand.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that'd be fun. I'm definitely up for it. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on the game once you get your copy in.
Absolutely.
All right, man. Appreciate you. Thanks again for the assistance, man. Have a good night.
We'll do it again.
Have a good night.
Thanks.
Later.
All right, that was Mitchell of Louisiana.
Yeah, awesome.
That worked out really well.
That was smooth. I like the way that went. Like I say, we'll have to talk about it, but I'm certainly open on this end to doing more of that, letting people
Guest
take over
host.
a portion of the show, guest host. Yeah, that was
Well,
fun.
I know that Deliverance is coming up in Kickstarter.
Yep.
And the designer of Deliverance has, I've reached out to him about the review copy.
Not the Banjos version. But,
No.
this one's a biblical deliverance.
Well, it's a Christian fantasy dungeon crawl game.
Okay, yeah.
But it's coming out. I think the Kickstarter's coming out in June. But he agreed to send us a copy to review.
Awesome.
And we'll have to ship it off to somebody else to look at. But then he also offered to teach us on TTS.
Okay, cool.
The demo, and he offered to join us in a live call-in show in May.
Sweet. That'll be neat.
Hopefully, as we continue to tweak how we do this and improve it, we can, by the time we have him on in May, we'll have a nice setup where he can talk to us about his upcoming Kickstarter and take phone calls
Maybe
on it.
zoom in, all that. Yeah, cool.
Let the folks at home have a chance to ask those questions instead of having to listen to
Right.
Content creators ask those questions.
Tying up our one phone line. Yeah.
I'm working on it.
Yeah. Okay.
I gotta admit, this is a much better setup. I mean, you look back, we started a little over a year ago.
Yeah.
Was it? It was October of 2019 when we first talked about doing it.
Okay. Yes, talking about it. Yeah.
It was 2020 when we got doing it. But if you go back and watch like our first time doing this, it was hot garbage.
Rough. Oh yeah. Well, everybody's got to start somewhere, right? Yeah.
This is getting good.
This is fun.
I impressed Jamey today. He said he was impressed with how we were able to get that set up.
Oh, that's cool.
So I'll take that as a win.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, you folks on the chat, we want to thank you for your questions and for your just being there,
interacting. Yeah. The show is you, basically.
That engagement that you provide helps give us some excitement.
Yeah, it was awesome, even though, couldn't call in sometimes, but texting in the questions or chatting in the questions that we can pass them along to Mitchell and to Jamey. That's really cool. So we'll do a lot more of that in the future.
And hopefully you'll get to the place where you feel more comfortable that you can call in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's my ultimate goal. Yeah. So on behalf of the Beans and Dice podcast, we want to thank Jamey Stegmaier for his call, Michael for his call. We want to thank Mitchell for co-hosting the show today. I'm Carlos.
I'm Rob.
And this is the Beans and Dice podcast, a podcast about
how we game.
Thanks again for watching, y'all. Have a good night.
Have a good night. Thanks for joining us.
Bye, everybody.